In 2023, the world eagerly awaited a technological breakthrough that promised to solve one of humanity's most pressing issues, the global energy crisis. Scientists around the globe had been working tirelessly to develop a clean, renewable source of energy, and they believed they had found the answer in algae. This innovative biofuel, derived from algae, was hailed as a miracle, an energy solution that would reduce pollution, help fight climate change, and provide a sustainable future for generations to come. It was a dream realized, and the world celebrated the potential it held. The initial success was nothing short of astonishing. Governments, corporations, and environmentalists applauded the new technology, and production scaled up rapidly. Biofuel plants were established, and algae-based energy began to power homes, cars, and entire cities. The media hailed the technology as the dawn of a new era. Cities were promised cleaner air, reduced dependence on fossil fuels, and a more sustainable future. The world felt as if it had finally turned a corner, and the promise of a better, greener tomorrow seemed within reach. But what was heralded as the perfect solution soon spiraled into a nightmare. In the beginning, the signs were subtle, small reports of algae blooms in bodies of water near biofuel production sites. At first, they seemed like nothing more than a minor inconvenience, an after-effect of a new technology still in its early stages. But as time passed, these reports began to multiply. Algae blooms, once rare and isolated, began to spread rapidly, turning lakes and rivers into thick, green, toxic sludges. As the algae proliferated, people in nearby communities began reporting strange symptoms: headaches, nausea, dizziness, and difficulty breathing. Some claimed to feel an unusual heaviness in the air, while others were struck by sudden, unexplained illnesses. Soon, hospitals were overwhelmed with patients, many of whom had respiratory issues that couldn't be traced to any known cause. What had once seemed like a minor ecological disturbance now revealed itself to be something far more sinister. Doctors scrambled to find answers, but the link between the algae and the health crisis wasn't immediately clear. It was only when environmental groups began investigating the production plants and testing the air and water that the truth began to emerge. The algae, far from being the benign organism it had been made out to be, was releasing harmful toxins into the environment, poisoning both the air and the water. The health effects were devastating. Respiratory problems surged, particularly in areas surrounding the production facilities. Children, the elderly, and seemingly healthy adults were affected. Hospitals were flooded with patients struggling to breathe, their lungs damaged by the toxins in the air. The very technology that was meant to usher in a new era of clean energy had inadvertently created a public health crisis on an unimaginable scale. As the crisis deepened, it became clear that the company behind the algae-based biofuel had failed to anticipate the long-term consequences of their innovation. Internal documents revealed that while the company had conducted some preliminary testing, it had ignored the warning signs, opting instead to push forward with the product to meet market demand. They had been so focused on the potential for profit and the promise of a cleaner world that they overlooked the dangers that technology posed to the very ecosystems it was meant to protect. The public backlash was swift and unforgiving. Communities that had once championed the technology now found themselves suffering the consequences. Families were displaced from their homes as the algae spread, contaminating water supplies and rendering the air toxic. Entire ecosystems were destroyed as the algae choked rivers, lakes, and oceans. The company's leaders, once seen as visionaries, were now scrambling to contain the damage. Their public statements and apologies were too little, too late. The world had trusted them with the future, and in return, they had delivered a catastrophe. As the disaster unfolded, a group of rogue scientists, former employees of the company, began to work in secret to find a solution. They had been sidelined by the company's leadership but now saw an opportunity to correct the wrongs that had been done. These scientists, still believing in the promise of algae-based biofuel, set out to develop a new, safer strain of algae, one that could still provide renewable energy without the harmful side effects. Their work was not easy. They faced resistance at every turn. The public's trust had been shattered, and the government had already distanced itself from the technology. Yet, these scientists persevered, working in laboratories, testing new strains of algae, and collaborating with environmental groups to create a more sustainable alternative. Their efforts were not without setbacks, but over time, they developed a new strain of algae that could not only neutralize the toxic effects of the original algae but also produce energy more efficiently. This new algae was designed to be carefully monitored, its growth controlled, and its impact on the environment minimized. It wasn't the perfect solution, but it was a start, a redemption of sorts for a technology that had once seemed like the future but had turned into the perfect disaster. Meanwhile, the original company, now facing multiple lawsuits and a devastated reputation, tried to recover. A change in leadership brought a shift in approach. The new CEO, who had no ties to the previous administration, publicly acknowledged the company's mistakes. The company's focus shifted toward collaborating with the rogue scientists to refine the algae technology and make it safer. They promised transparency, accountability, and a commitment to healing the damage done. But for many, the damage had already been done. Trust had been broken, and it would take years, if not decades, for the scars to heal. The story of the algae biofuel crisis is not just a story of innovation gone wrong. It is a story of how unchecked ambition, greed, and the rush to capitalize on new technology can have devastating consequences. It serves as a reminder that, in the pursuit of progress, we must always be mindful of the risks, both known and unknown, that come with new innovations. The perfect disaster was not just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility. The world had been given a glimpse of a better future, but instead, it was shown the cost of perfection. In the end, the algae biofuel story is one of tragedy, lives lost, communities destroyed, ecosystems wiped out, but also one of redemption. It is a testament to the resilience of those who refuse to give up on the promise of clean energy even after the perfect disaster. The lessons learned from that catastrophe may one day lead to a more responsible approach to innovation, one that prioritizes the well-being of the planet and its inhabitants above all else. The future, while forever marked by the past, still holds hope if we are willing to learn from our mistakes.